It all began one quiet morning when Earth's most advanced defense agencies received a strange signal. At first, it was nothing more than a garbled mess of static and incomprehensible sounds. But then, a clear message cut through. Humans, prepare for the impossible. The words echoed through the communication channels of every major military base and space station across the planet. Scientists scrambled to decipher the message, but it made no sense. Who was it from? And why had it been sent to Earth? As if the message itself wasn't enough to unsettle the world, strange phenomena began to follow. Massive solar flares erupted from the sun, sending waves of electromagnetic radiation across the planet. This wasn't unusual. Solar flares were a common occurrence, but the scale of these flares was unprecedented. Earth's defense systems worked tirelessly to protect satellites and communication systems, but the flares still left their mark. Even stranger were the gravitational shifts. On the surface of the planet, seismic readings indicated unusual disruptions deep within the Earth's crust. Some experts theorized it was due to massive shifts in the planet's magnetic field. Others feared it was a sign of something much worse, something that could mean the end of civilization as they knew it. As panic spread worldwide, the mysterious signal continued to repeat. Experts tried to crack the code, but nothing they tried seemed to work. And then, the space stations reported something far more terrifying. A fleet, but not just any fleet. A massive, approaching armada, unlike anything Earth had ever seen before. The first reports were almost unbelievable. There was a fleet of ships, no, armadas, coming from deep space, thousands of them. But it wasn't the number of ships that worried the scientists and military leaders. It was their nature. These weren't ordinary alien ships. The technology on display was far beyond anything humanity had ever developed. They were equipped with advanced cloaking devices, making them invisible to Earth's most sophisticated detection systems. But that wasn't the worst part. These ships didn't just carry regular weapons. They were powered by artificial intelligence, machines capable of making decisions, adapting to any situation, and striking with deadly accuracy. The news spread like wildfire. The world had been at peace for decades. Earth had expanded its space exploration efforts, establishing colonies on distant planets and making contact with peaceful alien civilizations. But this threat was something entirely different. It was a force from the unknown, something humanity was unprepared to face. As more information came in, Earth's military and space agencies scrambled to respond. Panic spread, and governments around the world began to take action. There was no time to waste. Humanity had to prepare for the unknown. But even as preparations began, the question remained, what were they facing? Amid the chaos, we are introduced to Captain Lucas, one of Earth's top military officers. Lucas had served in numerous space missions, facing countless dangers, but nothing could have prepared him for this. A tall, strong, and determined leader, Captain Lucas was the type of officer who always thought on his feet and remained calm under pressure. He knew that the fate of the entire planet rested on his shoulders. Lucas had been chosen to lead the most important mission of his life, to prepare humanity's last line of defense against this mysterious, technologically superior force. He quickly assembled a team of elite soldiers, scientists, and strategists, each one handpicked for their skills, knowledge, and ability to think outside the box. Among them was Dr. Zora, an alien scientist who had defected from a warlike alien race known as the Ziphians. Dr. Zora's defection had been a major turning point in the war between the Ziphians and Earth, and now she was one of humanity's most valuable allies. She brought with her a wealth of knowledge about advanced alien technology and tactics that could help Earth prepare for the impending battle. Though Lucas and Zora had a deep mutual respect for each other, there was an unspoken tension between them. Their relationship was complicated, both professional and personal. And as the mission progressed, their bond would deepen, and the stakes would become far more personal. Captain Lucas, Dr. Zora, and their team were now humanity's last hope. They had no choice but to face this overwhelming threat head-on. The enemy was too powerful, too advanced, and their fleet was already on its way. But Earth had to fight. There was no other option. As the preparations were underway, Lucas received a briefing from military strategists. The Zephian fleet was estimated to arrive within days. They had no idea what these aliens wanted, but the message they sent was clear: prepare for the impossible. This wasn't just a warning. It was a declaration of war. The first clash came sooner than expected. The Zephian fleet arrived near the outer planets of Earth's solar system. Using their cloaking technology, they managed to approach Earth without detection. By the time Earth's defense systems had finally identified the threat, it was almost too late. A battle broke out in space, one that humanity wasn't prepared for. The Zephians deployed their eye-controlled drones, which attacked Earth's space stations, tearing through defenses with ruthless precision. Earth's ships and soldiers fought back, but it was clear they were outmatched. The Zephians' weapon systems were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, and with their AI making tactical decisions in real time, Earth's forces were constantly one step behind. Lucas and his team watched the unfolding disaster from their command center. As the battle raged on, the odds grew slimmer with every passing second. The enemy was advancing, and Earth's forces were in disarray. The Zephians were too powerful. It was at that moment that Lucas realized the full gravity of their situation. Earth was facing an enemy they couldn't defeat with their current technology. The Zephians had complete control of space warfare, and humanity was on the verge of losing everything. As the battle reached its peak, Lucas made a decision that would change everything. He ordered a full retreat of Earth's space fleet. It was a desperate move, an attempt to preserve what was left of their forces, but it also gave them a sliver of hope. They needed time to figure out how to fight back. But even as Earth's forces withdrew, the Zephians showed no mercy. They continued their attack, pushing deeper into Earth's defenses. The message was clear: humanity was no longer safe. Earth had been marked for destruction. The story ends with Lucas staring out at the vast expanse of space. The unknown enemy was closing in, and Earth's future looked bleak. But as he looked at his team, his friends and comrades, he knew one thing: humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The first part of the story sets the stage for the war to come, with suspenseful hooks, a mysterious alien threat, and emotional stakes. It introduces the key players in the fight for survival and prepares the audience for the action and drama that will unfold in the next parts of the story. The Zephians were not like any alien race Earth had ever encountered. When they revealed themselves, it was with the force and arrogance of a species that knew they were far superior. They were led by the ruthless Empress Syrinx, a leader known across the galaxy for her cold, calculating nature and unyielding ambition. The Zephians had conquered countless worlds, bending them to their will, and Earth was next on their list. Their fleet was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The ships, massive in size, moved through space with terrifying precision. They were not just warships. They were living, breathing entities, powered by advanced technology that seemed to defy logic. The Zephians had perfected teleportation technology, allowing them to move their ships across vast distances in the blink of an eye. Their self-replicating drones could be summoned from the ship's core, and their weapons were controlled by AI that could adapt and strike with devastating effectiveness. The sheer scale of the Zephian armada was overwhelming. Hundreds of ships filled the sky above Earth, blocking out the stars. As they entered Earth's solar system, the sun's light seemed to dim, as if the very heavens themselves were being overshadowed by the alien invasion. It wasn't just their ships that made them terrifying. It was their technology, their weapons, and their leadership. Empress Syrinx was determined to conquer Earth, and she would stop at nothing to see her vision realized. The Zephians didn't waste any time. Without warning, they launched a surprise attack on Earth's outer defense colonies. These colonies, spread across the solar system, were humanity's first line of defense against threats from deep space. But against the Zephians, They were little more than sitting ducks. The first wave of attack came in the form of massive orbital bombardments. Huge blasts of energy rained down from the Ziphian ships, decimating Earth's outer colonies. Entire stations were vaporized in seconds. The technology that the Ziphians wielded allowed them to pinpoint targets with pinpoint accuracy. It was as if they knew exactly where to strike. Every hit was a devastating blow. Meanwhile, Earth's forces scrambled to mount a defense. The human fleet, though advanced, was no match for the Ziphians. Space combat erupted in every direction. Human ships fired their weapons, but the Ziphian shields absorbed the blasts with ease. And then the drones appeared. Hundreds of thousands of self-replicating Ziphian drones were released from the ships. These mechanical warriors swarmed like a living cloud, their metallic bodies reflecting the light of distant stars. They were armed with energy weapons and had enhanced combat protocols controlled by the AI, making them nearly impossible to defeat. On the ground, humanity's elite soldiers fought bravely against the drones, but the Ziphian drones were too powerful. They could adapt to any attack, countering every move that the human soldiers made. Laser beams shot across the battlefield as humans tried to hold their ground. Soldiers fought with all their might, but the drones were relentless. There was no escape, no place to hide. As Captain Lucas and his team watched from the command center, the realization began to set in. Despite humanity's best efforts, they were vastly outmatched. The Ziphians had technology that was centuries ahead of anything Earth had. There was no way to defeat them using conventional methods. But Lucas wasn't one to give up so easily. He knew that if they were to survive, they would have to find a way to outsmart the Ziphians. The situation grew more dire with every passing hour. As the Ziphian ships advanced closer to Earth, their weapon systems continued to wreak havoc. Earth's forces, despite their advanced weapons and tactics, were forced to retreat. Each battle was lost, and the losses continued to pile up. The Ziphians' dominance in the fight was undeniable. Lucas's team gathered in their war room, watching as the battle unfolded on the screens before them. He could see the fatigue in the eyes of his soldiers, hear the fear in their voices. They knew they were up against an enemy that was almost impossible to defeat. The Ziphians had technology that humanity could only dream of, and they had no weaknesses, at least none that were obvious. But Lucas refused to accept defeat. "We may be outmatched," he said to his team, his voice filled with determination. "But we are not beaten. Humanity has something they don't have: our will to survive. We can't beat them with strength alone, but we can find their weakness. Every enemy has one." Dr. Zara, standing next to Lucas, nodded. "The Ziphians are powerful, but they aren't invincible. We've fought similar races before. If we can get close enough, we might be able to find a way to exploit their technology." But the reality was grim. Even with their determination, the situation was rapidly slipping out of their control. The Ziphians' forces were overwhelming. Humanity's hope now lay in the hope that they could find a way to turn the tide, if they could find the enemy's weakness. As the battle raged on, the human forces began to suffer severe losses. Soldiers fought bravely, but it became clear that the Ziphians were winning. And then, in the heat of the battle, a tragic event occurred. Bonner, a beloved member of Lucas's team, was killed while trying to protect his comrades. Bonner had been with Lucas from the beginning of the war, a loyal and skilled soldier who had become like a brother to him. His death was a devastating blow to the team, and it struck deep into the hearts of everyone who knew him. The attack that killed Bonner had been swift. He had seen an incoming wave of Ziphian drones advancing on their position and knew there was no time to evacuate. Without hesitation, he charged into the swarm of drones, trying to buy his comrades the time they needed to retreat. It was a heroic act, one that cost him his life. Bonner's death was felt deeply by everyone on the team. Lucas, Zara, and the rest of the soldiers mourned his loss, but they also knew that they couldn't let his sacrifice be in vain. His bravery fueled their determination to fight back. The memory of Bonner's courage became a rallying cry, a reminder that they were fighting not just for survival, but for the people they loved, the ones who had given everything to protect their world. Bonner didn't die in vain. Lucas said to his team, his voice thick with emotion, "We fight for him. We fight for humanity." The death of Bonner became the emotional core of the story, fueling the soldiers' resolve to keep fighting, no matter the odds. His sacrifice gave them a reason to push forward, even when the weight of defeat seemed unbearable. The loss of one of their own made the stakes personal. It wasn't just about winning the war anymore. It was about honoring their fallen comrades and ensuring that Earth would survive. As the battle continued, Lucas's team prepared for the next phase of the war. They were no longer just soldiers. They were fighting for something bigger. They were fighting for their planet, for their families, and for the memory of those who had given their lives. The Ziphians may have had the upper hand, but humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and despite the odds, Lucas and his team were ready to face whatever came next. This part of the story sets the stage for the intense, high-stakes conflict that will follow. With fast-paced action, emotional moments, and the ever-present underdog status of humanity, it pulls the reader deeper into the narrative, leaving them eager to find out how the battle will unfold. The hope of humanity rested on a single discovery. After the devastating losses on the front lines, Dr. Zara, the alien scientist who had defected from the Ziphians' enemy race, was on the verge of a breakthrough. She had spent days poring over the wreckage of captured Ziphian drones, analyzing their systems, and searching for any weaknesses in their advanced technology. Then, one night, she finally found it. Hidden deep within the heart of the Ziphian technology was a critical flaw, a vulnerability in their AI system. The AI controlled nearly every aspect of their technology, from the weapons systems to the ship's movements. If they could exploit this flaw, they could disable the Ziphian weapons, rendering their fleet powerless. But there was a catch. The flaw wasn't something that could be easily accessed. It was located inside the Ziphian mothership, the very heart of their armada. To reach it, they would need to infiltrate the mothership itself, a near impossible task given the advanced security systems and the sheer size of the enemy vessel. However, Zara was certain this was humanity's only chance. If they could disable the AI, they could turn the tide of the war and finally stand a chance against the Ziphians. But there was little time. The Ziphians were advancing, and if humanity didn't act quickly, their chances of survival would dwindle to nothing. The decision was made. Lucas and his team would undertake a dangerous, near-suicidal mission to infiltrate the Ziphian mothership and exploit the AI weakness. It would be their last hope to save Earth. As the team prepared for the mission, the atmosphere was tense. The risks were monumental. The Ziphians had the most advanced security systems in the galaxy, and infiltrating their mothership would be like walking into the heart of a storm. Yet, Lucas knew they had no other choice. He gathered his team in the command room, going over the plan one last time. "This mission isn't going to be easy," he said, his voice steady but filled with resolve. "We may not make it back, but if we succeed, we change everything. We'll take down the Ziphian fleet from the inside." Zara nodded. "The cloaking devices will help us stay hidden, but they won't be perfect. We'll need to move fast and strike hard. If we're caught, we'll be dead before we can even make it inside." The team was a mix of seasoned soldiers, engineers, and scientists. Each of them knew the stakes and understood the danger. They weren't just fighting for victory. They were fighting for humanity's survival. The plan was simple. They would board one of the Ziphian vessels under the cover of the chaos caused by their ongoing battles with Earth's forces. Once aboard, they would use the cloaking devices to move through the ship without detection, making their way to the central core where the AI system was housed. Once there, they would plant the virus that would disable the Ziphian weapons. The journey to the mothership was a tense one. Lucas and his team moved through space in their stealth ship, cloaked from Ziphian radar. They had to be careful, avoiding detection by the alien patrols that constantly scanned the area. Their ship moved like a shadow in the void, silent and almost invisible, but the tension in the air was palpable. Once they arrived at the Ziphian mothership, they knew the real challenge was just beginning. As they boarded, the team immediately realized how massive the ship was. The interior was a labyrinth of dark corridors, cold metal walls, and alien technology that pulsed with an eerie glow. The ship seemed alive, and every corner held the potential for danger. The walls were lined with strange alien symbols, and the very air seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly hum. Inside the mothership, the stakes couldn't have been higher. The team moved cautiously through the narrow, dimly lit hallways, their cloaking devices working overtime to keep them hidden from the Ziphian patrols. The ship's corridors were labyrinthine, with multiple pathways leading in different directions. Every corner, every door, was a potential threat. In the darkened halls, the team faced countless challenges. They encountered Ziphian drones patrolling the corridors, their glowing eyes scanning for any sign of intruders. The team had to stay as quiet as possible, waiting for the drones to pass before moving forward. At one point, a drone was mere inches away from detecting them. Lucas held his breath, his hand on his weapon, ready to act. But the drone passed, unaware of the intruders. The closer they got to the heart of the ship, the more dangerous it became. They had to disable several security systems, sneak past automated defense mechanisms, and dodge the ever-present patrols. But with each encounter, the tension mounted. The risk of discovery was ever-present, and the team knew that if they were caught, there would be no escape. As they moved deeper into the ship, the corridors seemed to grow darker, the air heavier. The hum of the ship's machinery echoed through the halls, and strange, pulsating lights flickered above them. It was as if the ship itself was alive, aware of the intruders in its midst. Finally, they reached the core. The room was massive, filled with complex machinery and glowing interfaces. The AI system's heart beat within the ship, controlling everything from the weapons to the propulsion systems. It was a massive, intimidating structure, and Lucas and his team knew that this was their only chance to win. But the Ziphian eye was not going to make it easy for them. The moment they entered the core room, an alarm went off. The cloaking devices couldn't keep them hidden anymore. The AI had detected them. With the alarm blaring in their ears, the team quickly went into action. They had no choice but to fight their way through the ship's defenses. The AI controlled everything, but Lucas's team was determined to outsmart it. The room was filled with self-replicating drones, each one faster and more deadly than the last. The humans fought with everything they had, using advanced weapons and tactics to hold off the swarming enemies. Lucas fired his rifle, taking down drones left and right, but there were too many. The drones adapted quickly, learning from their previous attacks. It was a battle of wits as much as it was a battle of strength. Zara worked furiously at a nearby console, trying to access the AI's central network. "I'm almost in," she said, her voice tense. "Just give me a few more seconds." The rest of the team held the line, using their weapons and their cunning to stay one step ahead of the ever-adapting AI. It wasn't easy. Every drone seemed to be more advanced than the last, and every time they thought they had a moment to breathe, another wave of enemies appeared. The clock was ticking. Zara's hands flew over the console as she entered the final commands. "Done," she shouted. "The virus is in. The AI systems are compromised." But just as they thought they had won, the Ziphian mothership's alarms grew louder. The AI wasn't just going to give up without a fight. The ship's defenses were now going into overdrive, and the team was surrounded. The final battle for survival had begun. As the alarms echoed through the ship, Lucas and his team fought with every ounce of strength they had left. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and there was no turning back. In the midst of the chaos, with drones attacking from every direction, and the AI doing everything in its power to stop them, Lucas knew one thing for sure: this was the final stand. The next few moments would decide the fate of Earth. Would they succeed in disabling the Ziphian fleet, or would they be overwhelmed by the might of their enemy? With the virus planted and the AI's control over the ship weakening, there was hope. But the outcome was uncertain. Would they make it out alive, or would their mission end in failure? The stage was set for the final confrontation, and the tension was unbearable. The clock was ticking. The battle for Earth was far from over, and every second counted. As Lucas and his team fought their way through the Ziphian mothership, they found themselves facing increasing odds. The AI-controlled drones and advanced security systems were relentless, and they were running out of options. Time was running short, and they needed something more, something that could give them an edge against the seemingly invincible Ziphians. He appeared suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, emerging from the shadows of a darkened hallway. His clothes were ragged, his face weathered by years of survival, but there was a fire in his eyes, a fire that said he had seen things that no one should ever have to see. The Wanderer was an ancient human who had survived multiple alien invasions over the years. No one knew how he had lived for so long, or why he had chosen to hide himself from the rest of humanity. What was known was that he had survived through sheer willpower and the knowledge of old, forgotten techniques passed down through generations. When he first appeared, Lucas's team was skeptical. How could this lone, mysterious figure possibly help them? They were in the middle of a war against one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, and here was a human who seemed like a relic of a forgotten age. But the Wanderer revealed something that changed everything. He spoke of a lost ancient technique, a method used by humans long ago to disable the AI systems of advanced alien races. This technique wasn't based on brute force or advanced technology. It was a mental discipline, a method of focusing the mind and finding the hidden weaknesses in an enemy's systems. The Wanderer claimed that this technique had been lost in time, but he had perfected it through years of experience. It was humanity's secret weapon, a weapon that could potentially disable the Ziphian AI and turn the tide of the war in their favor. But there was a catch. This technique required total mental focus, and it could only be used in the heart of the enemy system. Deep within the Ziphian mothership, it was a method of hacking into the AI's neural network, manipulating its thought patterns, and ultimately causing a collapse in the system. Despite their doubts, the team knew they had no other option. The Wanderer's knowledge could be their only chance of survival. Lucas reluctantly agreed to work with him, though he still felt uneasy about trusting such an unknown figure. But time was running out, and the team needed every advantage they could get. The Wanderer agreed to train them in the technique, pushing them through rigorous mental exercises that would sharpen their minds and prepare them for the assault on the mothership's core. With the new technique in their arsenal, Lucas's team was ready to launch a high-risk assault on the heart of the Ziphian mothership. The plan was clear: infiltrate the core, use the ancient technique to disrupt the AI, and bring down the Ziphian fleet. It was a dangerous mission, but their options were limited, and they had to act quickly before the Ziphians could mount another attack on Earth. The team moved out with new resolve, determined to carry out their mission no matter the cost. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but they were prepared to face whatever came their way. As they made their way to the core, they encountered some of the most elite forces the Ziphians had to offer. Warriors enhanced with cybernetic implants and armed with powerful weapons. These were the best of the best, trained to fight in ways that even the most skilled human soldiers couldn't match. The battles were intense, fast-paced, and chaotic. Lucas and his team fought with everything they had, using every piece of technology and strategy at their disposal. Their cloaking devices allowed them to stay hidden for a while, but once they reached the core, the Ziphians' AI systems quickly adapted, and they were forced into direct combat. In the narrow, winding corridors of the mothership, the humans fought side by side with all their might. The air was thick with tension, the sound of weapons fire, and explosions echoing through the ship. Each corner they turned, each room they entered, seemed to bring them face to face with another wave of enemies. But despite the overwhelming odds, the humans held their ground. Their advanced technology, combined with the ancient technique the Wanderer had taught them, allowed them to outthink and outfight the Ziphian forces, even as the battle raged on around them. As they neared the core, it became clear that this was it, the final stretch. The team was exhausted, their supplies dwindling, but they couldn't afford to stop. Their mission depended on it. They fought on, pushing forward with everything they had left. Amid the chaos and carnage of battle, the true cost of the mission became painfully clear. Sergeant Marla, one of the most beloved and capable members of Lucas's team, had been fighting valiantly alongside them. She had always been the one to encourage her teammates, to keep them focused when everything seemed hopeless. But during one critical moment, Marla made a choice that would forever change the course of the mission. As they approached the core's final defenses, a massive group of Ziphian elite warriors ambushed them. The team was overwhelmed, and they were on the brink of being overrun. In that moment, Marla saw that the only way for the team to succeed was for her to hold off the attackers long enough for the rest of the team to push forward. Without hesitation, she charged into the group of elite warriors, firing her weapon with precision, and taking down several of them before she was hit. The remaining Ziphians closed in on her, and Marla knew there was no way out. With her last breath, she set off a grenade, taking out the remaining attackers and buying enough time for Lucas and the rest of the team to continue on their mission. Her sacrifice was not in vain, but the emotional weight of it hit the team hard. Marla had been like a sister to them, and her loss left a hole in their hearts. The team was devastated, but her death galvanized them. They knew they couldn't fail now. They couldn't let her sacrifice be for nothing. With renewed determination, Lucas and his team pressed on, now fighting not only for humanity's survival, but also in honor of their fallen comrade. Marla's death made the mission personal. Every step they took, every battle they fought, was a tribute to her bravery. As the team neared the core, Lucas began to feel uneasy. The Wanderer's methods had proven effective, but something about the situation felt wrong. The closer they got to the heart of the mothership, the more he questioned the ancient technique. Was it really the answer, or were they walking straight into a trap? The Wanderer had been secretive about his past and the origin of the technique he had taught them. Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that they were being manipulated. Was the Wanderer leading them into a deadly situation, or was he truly trying to help humanity? The tension between Lucas and the Wanderer grew as they reached the final chambers before the core. Lucas had to make a choice. Would he trust the Wanderer and push forward, or would he stop and risk the entire mission? The fate of the team and humanity rested on this decision. But there was no turning back now. The team had come too far to stop, and the Wanderer's methods had already saved them. With no other options, Lucas made the decision to proceed, hoping that his instincts were wrong. The team moved forward, ready for whatever awaited them in the heart of the Ziphian mothership. They had faced unimaginable odds, lost comrades, and fought against one of the most powerful enemies in the galaxy. But now, they were more determined than ever to finish the mission and take down the Ziphians for good. The final battle was about to begin, and the stakes had never been higher. Would they succeed, or would they fall to the very forces they were trying to destroy after enduring countless challenges and sacrifices? Lucas and his team reached the heart of the Ziphian mothership, but even as they celebrated their progress, they were hit with a shocking revelation. While they had successfully disabled the Ziphian AI system within the mothership, they soon learned that the Ziphians had planned for this contingency. There was one final piece of their invasion plan that they had hidden away, far beyond the reach of Earth's forces. A backup AI core, more advanced and heavily guarded than anything the humans had faced, was located on a hidden moon, orbiting a distant planet in a remote corner of the galaxy. This secondary core controlled the entire invasion fleet. If the core was destroyed, it would bring the Ziphian fleet to a grinding halt, ending the invasion. However, reaching and destroying this core would be nearly impossible. The moon was surrounded by heavy defenses, advanced cloaking systems, automated drones, and powerful energy shields. The team quickly realized the mission would not be as simple as they had hoped. To succeed, they would need to infiltrate the moon's surface, navigate its harsh environment, and destroy the backup AI core before the Ziphian forces could regroup. As the team prepared for the final assault, the weight of the task before them was clear. They had already been through so much, and yet the hardest battle was still ahead. But they had no choice. Earth's survival depended on it. The final assault was unlike anything Lucas and his team had experienced before. As they approached the moon, the landscape appeared bleak and desolate, a rocky, barren world with jagged mountains and deep craters. The atmosphere was thin, making every breath feel like a struggle, and the constant buzz of Ziphian drones overhead made the air tense with anticipation. Lucas and Zara led the charge, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that this could be their last mission. The plan was clear. They had to breach the moon's heavily defended surface, find the core, and destroy it. But they weren't just up against the natural challenges of the moon's environment. They were up against the full might of the Ziphian fleet, which had been mobilized to defend the core. The battle began the moment their shuttle touched down. Laser beams sliced through the darkness as the team sprinted across the rocky terrain, dodging blasts and returning fire. In the sky above, Ziphian warships hovered, sending down waves of drones to engage the humans. These drones were unlike anything the team had faced before, faster, stronger, and more relentless. But Lucas and his team fought with all their might, using every bit of advanced technology and strategy at their disposal. As the team moved deeper into the moon's surface, the intensity of the battle reached a fever pitch. Gravity-defying combat played out as soldiers used anti-gravity boots to leap and dodge attacks, engaging in close-quarter skirmishes that felt more like a dance of life and death. Explosions rocked the ground, sending debris flying in all directions as drones and Ziphian warriors clashed with human soldiers. Zora led the charge through the most dangerous sectors, her mind focused on the task at hand. Despite the odds, she remained calm, determined to do whatever it took to protect her team. Lucas, too, found new reserves of strength. The mission wasn't just about defeating the Ziphians anymore. It was about protecting the future of humanity, the lives of those they loved, and the sacrifices of comrades who had given everything. As they neared the heart of the moon, the final confrontation began. The backup AI core was housed deep within an enormous underground complex. The entrance was guarded by a thick wall of energy shields, drones, and armed Ziphian soldiers. With no time to waste, the team began their final push. Against overwhelming odds, Lucas and his team pushed forward. Every move was calculated, every attack strategic. The Ziphians seemed to anticipate their every step, but the humans fought with a relentless, almost desperate energy. They had no choice but to succeed. As they approached the core, the situation became increasingly dire. The entrance to the facility was a maze of narrow corridors, each one lined with high-tech security systems. Every turn felt like a trap waiting to spring. The team fought their way through, but with each passing minute, the chances of success seemed slimmer. The Ziphian forces were closing in, and the weight of the mission hung heavily on their shoulders. In the final moments, it was Lucas who made the crucial move. Knowing they were out of time, he pushed forward alone, using the ancient technique taught by the Wanderer to disable the core's defenses. With his heart pounding, he engaged the core's neural network, focusing all his energy on finding the right signal that would trigger the core's self-destruction. But the AI fought back. It sent waves of energy through the facility, triggering massive explosions and pushing Lucas to the brink of collapse. Yet, with sheer willpower and determination, he reached the core's center. The core's lights flickered and began to fade. It was working. The backup AI core was beginning to shut down. The destruction of the AI core wasn't an easy victory. As the core's defenses fell apart, the entire facility started to crumble. The ground shook, and the walls began to collapse. The moon's surface was torn apart as orbital bombardments rained down from the Ziphian warships above, trying to prevent the destruction of their last hope. Through the chaos, Lucas and his team scrambled to escape. The air was thick with smoke and debris, and the explosions around them sent shockwaves through the facility. The once sturdy walls cracked and shattered, sending the team running for their lives. The human soldiers fought to the very end, determined to survive and to finish what they had started. As Lucas, Zara, and the remaining survivors finally made their way to the extraction point, the final moments of the battle unfolded in cinematic fashion. The sky above the moon was lit with explosions, and the moon's surface seemed to break apart in real time, sending massive chunks of debris flying in all directions. The sheer scale of the destruction was breathtaking, but there was no time to stop and admire it. The team had done what they came to do. They had destroyed the Ziphian core, and with it, the invasion fleet. The return to Earth was bittersweet. Lucas, Zara, and the surviving members of the team were hailed as heroes, but they knew that the victory had come at a heavy cost. Many of their comrades had fallen in battle, and they would never forget the sacrifices made along the way. The invasion had been stopped, but the scars of war would remain for a long time. As they touched down on Earth, the team was met with cheers and applause, but they couldn't shake the feeling that the war was far from over. The victory they had achieved was monumental, but the Ziphians were not the only threat out there. The universe was vast, and there were other alien races with eyes on Earth. Humanity had proven its resilience, but the battle for survival was just beginning. In the final moments of the story, a chilling post-credit scene flashed across the screen. Far from Earth, in distant galaxies, other alien fleets were preparing for war. The Ziphian invasion had been stopped, but there were many more enemies out there, waiting for their chance to strike. Lucas, Zara, and their team had saved Earth, but the future was uncertain. Their victory may have been a triumph for humanity, but the next battle was already on the horizon. The battle was over, but the scars it left behind would take years to heal. Lucas and Zara, along with the few survivors of their team, found themselves standing in a quiet room deep within Earth's military command center. The cheers of the public, the media frenzy, and the celebrations outside felt distant. They had just returned from the front lines, their hearts heavy with the weight of the sacrifices they had witnessed and endured. Bonner, one of the most cherished members of the team, was gone. His selfless act of sacrifice had saved countless lives, but it had come at the ultimate cost. Lucas, standing at the memorial wall, touched the dog tags that hung from his neck. The memory of Bonner's final moments played over and over in his mind. He had been the glue that held the team together, a calm presence in the midst of chaos. Losing him was like losing a part of their very soul. Sergeant Marla's death had hit the team just as hard. Marla was more than a soldier. She was a leader, someone whose laughter and wit had brightened the darkest days. Her courage had inspired them all, and the price she paid to protect her team was immeasurable. Lucas and Zara had both known her as a friend, and her absence left a void that would never be filled. They spent hours in the aftermath, sitting in silence, remembering her. Lucas finally broke the silence. "We'll carry them with us," he said, his voice hoarse. "Bonner, Marla, they didn't die in vain. We have to keep going. For them." Zara, standing beside him, nodded. Her eyes were red, but there was determination in them. "We will. We owe them that much. But we can't forget what they fought for. We'll make sure Earth never forgets." In that moment, their bond grew stronger. It wasn't just the battle that had united them, but the shared pain and loss. And amidst all this destruction, something else began to emerge. Feelings that had been buried beneath layers of duty and survival. Lucas and Zara had fought side by side for so long, their connection had deepened beyond friendship. As they stood there, Lucas turned to Zara, his eyes searching hers. "Zara, I think you know how I feel," he said softly. Zara looked at him, her expression vulnerable but knowing. For a long moment, they both stood there, silent, before she stepped closer. "I know," she whispered, and before either could say more, she reached out, resting her hand on his. It was an unspoken understanding between them, a bond that had survived the darkest of times. Despite the losses they had endured, despite the pain and destruction, there was a sense of hope that flickered between them. In the midst of war, love had found a way to bloom. Days passed, and Earth began its long road to recovery. The Ziphian threat had been neutralized, but the damage they had caused was vast. Cities were in ruins, entire colonies destroyed, and countless lives lost. But humanity was nothing if not resilient. The rebuilding process was underway, and there was a determination in the air that made it clear Earth would rise again. People worked tirelessly to restore what had been lost, repairing cities, rebuilding defenses, and fortifying Earth's place in the galaxy. But the physical reconstruction of the world was just one part of the story. The psychological toll of the war weighed heavily on the survivors. For the soldiers, the memories of the battle were vivid, haunting. The faces of fallen comrades, the sounds of explosions, and the screams of war would stay with them for a lifetime. Lucas, Zara, and the rest of their team were hailed as heroes, but they didn't feel like heroes. They felt like survivors. The medals, the awards, the recognition, none of it could bring back the lives they had lost. But they found solace in the knowledge that their sacrifices had meant something. Earth had survived, and they had played a part in that survival. Yet, as the days turned to weeks and the world began to rebuild, something lingered in the air, a sense of unease, a feeling that the battle for Earth was far from over. The message from the Zephians, a chilling reminder of their power and arrogance, echoed in the back of everyone's mind. Humans, prepare for the impossible. The words hung over them like a storm cloud, darkening the hope they had fought so hard to preserve. Despite their victory, the Ziphians had made it clear that their war was not just against Earth, it was against humanity itself. And if one thing had become abundantly clear over the course of the war, it was that humanity had a way of surviving against all odds. Lucas found himself staring out at the stars one evening, his thoughts racing. He had hoped that, with the destruction of the Ziphian fleet, Earth could finally rest. But that message, the ominous warning, the certainty in those words, it was as if the Ziphians knew something they didn't, as if this was just the beginning of something far worse. Zara joined him, her presence a silent comfort. "You're thinking about it too much," she said softly, her voice calm yet filled with the same worry that plagued him. "We've won, Lucas. We've stopped them." "I know," Lucas replied, though his tone was far from convinced. "But they were only one threat. What if there's more out there? What if they've been planning this for centuries, and we've just scratched the surface?" Zara rested her hand on his shoulder, a small gesture of reassurance. "We'll face whatever comes next, together. That's what we've always done." Lucas looked at her, feeling the weight of her words sink in. She was right. The universe was vast, and there would always be new dangers, new challenges. But humanity had proven time and again that it could endure. And with his team by his side, Lucas knew that they would face whatever came next, no matter the odds. The story of their victory against the Zephians would be told for generations to come. It would be a tale of courage, sacrifice, and triumph. But Lucas and Zara knew that the road ahead would not be easy. They had proven that humanity could survive the impossible, but they also knew that the universe was full of dangers they couldn't even imagine yet. As Earth began to heal, the survivors found their place in a world forever changed. The scars of war would never fully fade, but they had created a new future, one where humanity stood united, stronger than ever. But in the distance, far beyond the reach of Earth's defenses, a new enemy was stirring. Ships unlike any the humans had ever seen, vast and powerful, gathered in the dark corners of space. They were preparing for something that would challenge humanity's place in the universe. And while Earth's victory over the Ziphians had been hard-earned, it was only a small chapter in the story of what was to come. As the final scene fades to black, the audience is left with a sense of hope and anticipation. Humanity's fight for survival was far from over. But with each new challenge, they would continue to rise, and with their resilience, they would show the universe that, no matter how impossible the odds, They were ready for whatever came next.